of KES. We have a special guest with us today. And we are in week 5. Today's agenda is ReadyForce. They are from San Francisco, and they are here to talk about their company and how they can engage us in whatever they are doing. And also we will have a concept introduction by Abdul. So we can get started.
Sure.
I invite this founder and CEO, Alex.
Hi everybody. First off, I want to try to keep it super informal, so feel free to interrupt. I haven't been in the classroom setting for a long time, so I don't respond very well to raising your hand. Just interrupt. Amma does it to me all the time, so just blurt out if you've got a question. I'm going to do 2 things. I'll tell you a little bit about what ReadyForce is, the business that we've created and what we're looking to do, as well as we're currently on what's called the hacker tour right now. We're out talking to a bunch of students about life at a startup. I'll tell you a little bit about my experiences as an entrepreneur, both the good and the bad of being an entrepreneur, and then I'll go about maybe 5 or 10 minutes and then give you guys a chance to ask questions, whether it's questions about how to start a company, how to raise money, really anything that's on your mind. I'm happy to answer whatever I can. So to start off, I'll tell you a little bit about ReadyForce. We started the business about 2 years ago. We were very successful and raised about $14 million from a few different venture capital firms. And as is natural with the course of any startup, you go through a variety of different iterations before you find what's called product market fit. And so you're talking to customers, you're building products, you're iterating back and forth until you find something that people say, I want that. And so earlier this year, we made an announcement about our new business model, which is basically a career network designed specifically for college students. And what that means is we do a place for students to come, have an online presence, build a profile, connect with startup companies. It's not a job board, it's more of a networking site, and so you're getting personal introductions to companies, primarily out in California and New York, all startup businesses. And in addition to that, we're making it easy for students to get access to resources online, as well as specific events. And so this fall, when we launched ReadyForce, the first marketing program that we ran is called the Hacker Tour. And Anna and a few of our other ReadyForce employees literally got in a big black van that was wrapped with the logos of 24 exciting startups that are interested in hiring college students. And so they got in this van, they've been to 25 different campuses, and primarily what we're doing is talking to students about what life is like at a startup, why you should consider working at a startup, and connecting you with companies that are looking for folks just like you. One of the interesting things is, so Kettering wasn't on our original tour schedule. We're actually here for a couple different events at State, at U of M as well, and I had actually heard about Kettering from a human resources person at Hewlett-Packard at a different event, and I have to say that your reputation is strong even out in California. So we went to dinner with a couple folks today. We got a tour of the school. It's really impressive. So you guys ended up at a great school. In terms of my entrepreneurial career, so I started off as an investment banker. I worked at Merrill Lynch for a couple years, and then was an investor doing late-stage private equity. And what that is, spent most of my time investing in logistics businesses, manufacturing companies. Spent a summer at a company called Berry Plastic in Evansville, Indiana. So walking around here and seeing, going through the machine shop in the building that I think is right over there, reminds me of the days of being a late-stage investor. What I realized through the course of my career was that I really wanted to run and operate a business. So I took my family, we were in New York at the time, we sold our house, I quit my job, moved to California, and started a company that was really the predecessor of ReadyForce, connecting primarily forklift drivers, truck drivers, machinists to industrial businesses around the Bay Area. That business evolved over time. We started to use technology in terms of matching people to jobs, built an online application, and really evolved the business from what was a traditional staffing company into what you see today. Let me actually stop there for a second. Questions about what ReadyForce is? Let me actually give a slightly different description. Who here has a LinkedIn account? About 50%, which is kind of what I see from college students. Who here has actually filled out their LinkedIn profile? Okay, about 50% of the 50% is also what I normally see. Who here has heard from a company on LinkedIn? 1, 2. So actually very similar ratios to see what we see when we talk to students across the country. What we find is there's demand for companies to have an easy way to contact students and reach out to students, not going to a career fair and not actually posting jobs on the school career site. And so what ReadyForce is trying to do is be basically a place where you can meet the as you saw, the job of your dreams, and companies can actually find you. So if you think about ReadyForce is really LinkedIn specifically designed for college students. I can do a quick walkthrough of the product if that's helpful. So we launched this site really about 2 or 3 months ago. We're technically still in beta, and so we actually had a small problem about 5 minutes before the meeting started, so I'm just happy that the site's up. What you see here, and that's, by the way, life of a startup. We're 8 people located in San Francisco, and so we're all constantly changing the site all the time. What you see here is a list of startups: Square, Code Academy, SoundCloud, also some larger companies like Box, Facebook. Actually, we're on here as well. Hypothesis is a 2-person startup located in San Francisco. This list is basically ranked based on how much content the companies have added to the website, how engaged they are on the website. And so if any of you have been on OkCupid or Match.com, any of those dating sites that are out there, we look at not only profile completeness, the activity that a person has on the site itself, how responsive they are to people that are requesting introductions. So one of the things that we used to hear from students all the time is, I submit my resume, but I never hear back. It's kind of the resume black hole. And so what we're trying to do is to make sure that companies that are interested and engaged and are actively looking for students continue to bubble up to the top of the list. If you scroll back up to the top, and you can press the Explore Students. So this is all open to the public. You can actually look at information that's right there. And select Nicholas's profile for a second. So profiles look very similar between companies and students. So skills that he has, education, and scroll down all the way to the bottom. So most students don't have 10 or 15 years of work experience. LinkedIn was really designed specifically for people that have lots of years of work experience. So we're trying to give a format for students to put pictures of their work, projects. Scroll down a little bit more. This is a web product that Nicholas built, and so he actually did a product walkthrough talking through the specific steps of what he built and how he designed it. But also, the reality is companies are hiring not only for the skills that you have, but who you are as an individual. So we try to encourage students to actually show some personality. We don't want pictures of you and your friends out late at night at a bar. This is not Facebook, so this is supposed to be professional. But this is actually a video of a light show that Nicholas designed, that the lights moved in sync with the music that was playing. So again, it just shows you a little about who Nicholas is as an individual. Links to GitHub, Stack Overflow. If you've got other presence on the website or on the web, we're trying to create one central location where you can put all of your information and companies can easily find it. Let me stop there. I'm happy to answer questions about ReadyForce, questions about starting a business, raising capital, really anything. So,
are you a venture capital funded company right now?
We are. So we raised about $14 million from U.S. venture partners and Menlo Ventures.
How's your site making money?
Everything is free today. So while in beta, we want to make sure that we build we're really a network business. We want to make sure that we've got good interaction from companies on one side and good interaction from students on the other. When we come out of beta, and likely early next year, it'll be a subscription business for companies. So the companies will pay to access the data for students, and it's free to students.
me ask you, how do you entice the early adopters of the site to participate when the volume is so low?
Yeah, that's a great question. So building a network, and whether it's a dating style site with men and women on both sides, or jobs, who's heard of Airbnb? Airbnb, so it's basically you can rent out a room in your house to a person across the country. So it's a low cost way to go travel. All of these sites, when they get started, it's not very attractive for the first few people that are coming in. And so generally what you do is what we call seeding the database. This is an example of us seeding the student side of the database. We're going out, talking to students, having live conversations, getting feedback. Based on comments and questions that I get from students, we'll go back and actually change the site. But you do these types of seeding programs to get and entice people onto both sides. We actually started with ReadyForce because we knew the demand for hiring students was so strong. We went out and got 26 companies to sponsor the Hacker Tour as that first batch of companies to create an online presence. So 26 companies, the Hacker Tour going to 25 different campuses. We're at about 2,500 students that have created profiles so far, just in the last few months. Anna's main initiative really for the next few months is going back and getting more companies, and you go back and forth and make sure that you've got the right balance between the two. What you don't want to have is too much on one side. So students come, for example, let's say there's only 12 or 15 jobs on the site, or 12 or 15 companies. If we have too many students sign up too quickly, then they're going to have a bad experience. If we have a bunch of companies and jobs but no students, then they have a bad experience. And so you want to build it back and forth over time.
Do you have any schemes on how you're gonna lay out the pricing plan for the companies? Is it gonna be individual basis or like a month subscription?
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah. So the answer is, we have some ideas. We'll end up doing some tests and talking to companies. One of the reasons why we started off being free is we wanted to actually have the companies interacting on the site. That way when we go back and say, here's how we're thinking about pricing, they've actually they know exactly what the product does, and they can give us better feedback. In general, our current thinking is it'll be a monthly subscription for a company, so anywhere from $50 to $500 per month, depending on the volume that they're using.
Do you know how much like they value per person? Like, I guess how much do they value a student? You know?
Yeah, so you can actually look across different types of businesses to estimate what it's worth. I don't know if you guys, are there any local recruiters that are actually reaching out to you on behalf of companies, or is it all companies directly that you're talking to?
I think it's mostly direct.
Mostly direct? So there are, a recruiter, for example, could get paid as high as 20% of your first year annual salary as a fee for finding you. So if it's, that's one extreme. The other extreme is we talk to companies that say, you know, if you can send me one student who's viewed my company profile and is interested in working at my company, that's worth $100 to me. So there's extremes on both sides. For us, the interesting thing from building a business, and since this is an entrepreneurship group, you've always got to think about not only the value that you're providing, but the money that you can make, is trying to strike that right balance between having a healthy network where people are interacting with each other while also making money on top of that. And so we don't want to put a big, it's called a paywall basically. You don't want to put a paywall in front of users before they're interacting on the site, because inevitably if they have to put in their credit card bill, you're going to see a lot of drop off.
Are you thinking about like a free subscription part, like an entry fee interaction part of that?
Yeah, so likely our volumes will be based on what we call introductions, and so we'll let a company have 10 introductions for free, give them a taste, and then charge beyond that.
Now, are the majority of the companies that you have signed up with your site, are they majority like tech, Silicon Valley, like software companies and whatnot?
Yeah.
That's for right now.
So today, the vast majority of the positions that are on the site are CS majors. There are some companies on the site that are looking for mechanical engineering, electrical engineering, but not many, as we found out. It is what's happening kind of out in Silicon Valley today is the availability of capital you can raise money very easily. If you've got an idea, you've got a smart group of people, you can go get capital. And a big change that's happened over the last 10 years or so is building a website and getting a product out into the market is cheap. In the old days, and actually I started a business in the late 90s, and you needed about $250,000 just to start the company. You needed to buy a server, you needed to create a network in your office. Now you've got Dropbox, now you can use Amazon Web Servers. You have to buy all of that infrastructure to start the business. And so quite often you're seeing businesses going out and raising capital much later in the process.
Okay.
But the result of that is an explosion of software businesses that are pure, it's, you know, 2 guys and 2 girls in a garage somewhere that they've already got a product out in the market.
Okay.
Which sort of begs the question, why do you need $12 million?
So, it's a great question.
Really,
So,
it does.
well, so since this is an entrepreneurship class, I mean, I'll share some of the lessons that I've learned just with this previous experience. Capital is both good and bad. So we went out and raised a ton of money. The business idea was a huge idea. We have an amazing team. At the time, we had revenue. We had a product in the market, and really the way the investment community works is they look through and say, checkbox, 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 checkbox. You've got all of these wonderful things, big market. Here's a pile of cash. Now, it's not the same for everybody, but one of the risks of raising too much money is that you end up being unfocused. And so for us, and one of the mistakes that I made as one of the co-founders is basically saying, we raised a lot of money, and you feel this pressure to spend the money and to go as quickly as you can. Everyone says you got to go fast, you got to go fast. Your investors are frankly always encouraging you. You got to be first to market. You got to own the market quickly. So you hire a big team, you hire a sales team, and sometimes you get too far in front. And so we actually had that happen with us. We got too far in front of the business, and ended up having to scale back down, rethink about what we're doing, and launch the business again. And so it's good and it's bad. The timing is really important about how you spend those dollars.
Thank you.
Now, it is really, there are other companies that are in our space. There's a company called Identified, another one called Branch Out. Both of those companies have raised north of $50 million. Part of it, again, is that people sometimes feel like it's a winner-take-all market. So whoever gets first, there's approximately 20 million students in school across 2-year degrees, 4-year degrees, and graduate school. Some people's theory is basically you need to get all 20 million in order to win. Our philosophy is actually slightly different. It's why we're focusing really on the engineering population and startups to start off with. We want to make sure that we're creating value for both people and then expand out from there.
What's your success rate on the student's perspective? Like if they fully fill out their profile, about how long will they stay in the site, or do you have any stats on that?
Sure. So we're still early. So really, we just started adding new students to the site about 2 months ago. 2,500 students have signed up. We're just under 200 companies that are there. 2,000 introduction requests, which are connections that are going back and forth, have been requested, and about 250 of those have been accepted. So we've made about 250 matches between companies and students. As you guys probably, the seniors that are here, you're still kind of in that interview process. We actually had a great email from a student last night that we heard that the first offer had been extended off of a student who met a company in ReadyForce. So still very early. But good progress so far.
Now, if you're trying to build a product, what would you say is the best way to raise capital?
Those are 2 different questions. So if you're trying to build a product versus raising capital,
Okay.
I would encourage you to make as much progress on your product before you try to raise capital.
Okay.
One of the benefits of being engineering students, or if you're CS students, or mechanical engineering students, investors are going to look to you to make progress before you go raise those funds.
Okay.
You've probably got friends that can code. If you can't, maybe you can code yourself. they're going to want to see a proof of concept before you can go out and raise that capital.
Okay, so kind of like have a prototype ready and everything.
Have a prototype, have your friends use the site, be able to walk through something live and show them what it is, what it does. The farther down that path that you go, the easier it is to raise money.
Okay.
When you go out and raise capital, in general, a venture capital firm is going to look to own 20 to 50% of the business after making an investment. And so if you've made little progress, you may be able to get $1 million in funding, but give up 50% of your business. If you wait longer and you've got even as little as a couple hundred users on the site that are interacting, now all of a sudden you could raise $2 or $3 million and give up 25% of your business. So the longer you can bootstrap, the better off you'll be. One of the interesting things that's also part of building a consumer web company today, or really any startup, is most students make the mistake, or most entrepreneurs make the mistake of keeping their ideas secret. They're afraid to talk to the outside world about what it is. They'll kind of go into their garage for 6 months and come out and say, "Hey, this is what I built." Quite often, what you think the users want is not really what they want. And so what I always encourage entrepreneurs to do is talk about your ideas, right? There are tons and tons of ideas, and there are very few original ideas. What makes an entrepreneur successful is taking that idea and actually being able to execute on it. And so talk to your friends about the idea, make sketches, show it to people, ask them if they would use it, ask how they would interact with the site. The more feedback that you have early on, the more successful you'll be.
How do you pursue that feedback early on?
Take your sketchbook, do what's called a wireframe. If it's a website, for example, sketch it out, show it to people. And it's as easy as that. One of the wonderful things about groups like this is you have like-minded individuals that are interested in entrepreneurship and that are constantly thinking about business ideas. This is a great place to start. I'm actually looking forward to, I guess there's a business pitch that's going to happen after me. That's a great example. You're going to get up in front of your peers and say, "Here's what I'm thinking about," and you'll get one of two reactions: you're crazy, or that's a great idea. Now, one of the hard things about being an entrepreneur is knowing when they say that you're crazy, if you still go forward with that idea. And so, and there's no great answer for that one, unfortunately. So sometimes you're passionate, sometimes you actually know better than what the user wants, and sometimes the user's actually right. Other questions?
So what was, in your career here, what would you say is your greatest failure, and what you learned from it?
Oh, my greatest failure. So, yeah, no, that's a great. The list is long, right? So, one of the things that is wonderful about being an entrepreneur, and especially in this generation, is that failure is okay. And so, it's not about every idea that you have is not going to be a great idea. Every business that you start is not going to be successful. There are very few people that will start 2 or 3 successful businesses in their career. But you want to operate and you want to take risks, right? So when you start a business, you want to think big, you want to think about disrupting something, revolutionizing something, and really don't be afraid of that failure. And when I think about my career in particular, I was born in Michigan. I grew up in Franklin, Michigan. My dad was a stockbroker at E.F. Hutton, which is, I don't think any of you guys were alive when E.F. Hutton was actually around. But it was a very conservative background. Always worried about, can you pay the bills, and so I was raised in a very conservative way. Creating a business is risky. You've got to jump in head first, and if you're kind of always hedging your bets and you're not throwing yourself fully at the problem, then you're probably not going to be as successful as somebody who says, "I'm going to think big, I'm going to go big, and I'm going to be bold." And so when I think about my career, I wish I would have started to be an entrepreneur earlier. I wish I would have taken bigger risks earlier in the process, and frankly been less afraid of failing.
So I'm curious, and you might not want to talk specifically on it, but while you're working with this, is there any other big ideas that you're working on aside from this project? Like, do you have several ideas? Because I'm sure with you being an entrepreneur, this isn't the only idea that you've had.
Yes, actually, so one of the problems of being an entrepreneur is that you literally you walk down the street and you go, oh, I should go do that. Let me go do that. That's a great idea. This is the only thing that I'm working on right now. Yeah, and that's part of when you're starting a business, when you're running a company. There's not a lot of time for anything else. I have 2 little kids. So I have my wife, my 2 kids, my job. By the way, I love my job. There are not many people that can actually say that. Being an entrepreneur is a fantastic career. I love the people that I work with. They inspire me every single day. But yeah, there's not a lot of time else for that. Every once in a while I'll play some golf, but only one business idea at a time.
Do you feel like at some point, once this hits a certain level, you're going to pursue another idea that you have?
Yeah, so the entrepreneurial path, you
Long
generally
run.
see them take, there's
Right.
2 different types of entrepreneurs. There's the type that starts a business and wants to scale with the company, all the way through going public. So Mark Zuckerberg's a great example of that with Facebook. There are other entrepreneurs that are really serial entrepreneurs that get the thrill out of starting and then getting them going and then starting something new. I don't know which one I am yet, and that's okay. That's depending. It really all depends on kind of the when you wake up in the morning, and I actually tell all of my employees this. You wake up in the morning, you look at yourself in the mirror, and if you love what you're doing every single day, you keep doing it. But as soon as you have enough days in a row and you look in the mirror and say, I don't like this, then it's time to find something different. I truly believe that people do their best work when they're inspired, when they're excited, and when they love what they're doing. So I encourage you guys, whether it's taking the entrepreneurial path or it's being an employee at GM, make sure that you're doing something that you love, and when you wake up in the morning, you're jumping out of bed and excited to do it.
Just curious, where are you guys located in Silicon Valley?
So we're actually in San Francisco, in an area called South of Market. It's kind of where a lot of the startups are.
Okay.
Our office, and actually, if you can see, go there. I can show you what a startup office looks like. So click here, and then type in ReadyForce up there. Let's hope it works. No space in the middle, sorry. And then select that. And then scroll down to the bottom. See if you can see the. Actually, scroll back. Sorry, down this way. There's some pictures that are up here. There we go. So if you press there. So one of the things that we try to do for companies, we want to encourage companies to show their culture. So my normal joke for this is that we allow animals in the office. So this is our office. We're at a co-work facility called Startup HQ. It's 30 startups in a big warehouse. You can tell back there. And it's a bunch of people sitting at desks, writing code next to each other. Business development people are on the phone. One of the nice things about working at a startup is it is a very casual culture. This is I am dressed up today compared to what folks wear to the office. We have folks that wear flip-flops and shorts and bring their dogs to work. So it's a very fun, casual environment. The other thing too is just worthwhile noting if any of you are interested in careers at startups. One of the reasons that people are generally drawn out to that startup culture is you can graduate from school and make a huge impact right away. So at a larger organization, quite often, and I don't know enough about where you guys are going to be graduating and what companies you're going to be going to, but the larger organizations in general, you're going to be part of a bigger team, you're going to be in a training program, versus going to a startup. We're hiring interns and full-time folks right out of school and basically saying, here's a problem, go solve this problem. Be creative, be thoughtful, go do this, and it's your responsibility. And so quite often at a smaller company and a startup, you're gonna need a tremendous amount of responsibility much earlier in your career. Now, as we talked about at dinner, some people thrive in that environment where it's unstructured, and you're gonna kind of sink or swim on your own. Other people like more structure, so as you're thinking about what's right for you, maybe a good comparison is how do you do your homework? Are you fairly rigid in terms of your homework routine, or are you fairly creative? Maybe that's a good way to figure it out.
Do you do your homework is the question.
Do you do your homework? Yeah.
Professor número 1. How do you develop, and what is your pay structure? You just give them, you pay them by project completion, by hour?
Our internal employees?
Yeah.
So everybody is an employee, so you get an annual salary. Is what's very normal within startup companies. You'll get options or stock within the company. We do have a couple contractors, but for an engineering position or development position, those are all full-time hires. So, well, and as an intern, generally you pay them either per week or per month for the 3-month period. Other questions?
I have a question for you. One of the assignments I give to our students in the new venture class that I teach is to go get voice of the customer. Because we understand that it is an iterative process to find out, well, what does the customer really want?
Yep.
And so they've devised a survey, 10 questions that they would love to ask a prospective target customer to really understand whether that is a product that they would be willing to part with their money with. Do you do any kind of focus groups or formalized surveys about the features and the use of your website? Is there some kind of mechanism where you actually tabulate, the individual customer's point of view?
Yeah, so before I even go down to customer feedback, there's actually 2 schools of thought. So, has everyone heard of Steve Jobs before? Okay, so Steve Jobs' philosophy in general was that he knew better than the customer. So he didn't take out the iPhone and say, what do you think about this phone? Would you like to be able to touch it and play around? He had a vision, he believed in his vision, and he went and executed on his own. There's another guy called Steve Blank, who a lot of the startup folks read, and he talks about the lean startup and how do you create a company from scratch. His philosophy is it's all about interaction with the users. It's not only watching how they're interacting on the site, it's watching kind of the metrics that are coming through the individual site. And in that philosophy, it's a combination of 2 different things. One, you want to go out and have conversations with people. Sometimes not even with the product, because if you're interacting with your product with the user, they're focused on the product, not exactly on the conversation. So you want to have a balance of your product conversations with and without the product. You want to look at the data that's being used with your users throughout the site. So every time you click a button on our site, we track that, and we watch the funnels of how people are using the site and what's happening. And then one of the wonderful things that's happening, again, in the consumer web, there are companies that have been created to solve this individual problem. So there's a company called usertesting.com. What they basically do is you can pay users to go to your site. They'll record you working through the site. They encourage you to talk as you're clicking through the site and hear exactly how the person is experiencing. So they may look at the site and say, why is there a girl on the front page? And what do you mean by found by the dream job? And I don't understand, what happens when I click here? So you really have a variety of different ways to get that user feedback.
Very good. Of those 2 methodologies, which do you really believe in, though? Steve Jobs' philosophy?
So I'm not Steve Jobs, I wish I was, but that's not, no. I do a combination of talking to users, trying to understand their problems, watching users use the site, and watching data. So I'm more of the Steve Blank type of an entrepreneur.
You're kind of data-driven, you'd like to see some
That's right,
data
yeah.
on it. Very good.
Someday I'll be more inspirational.
Oh, so,
Do I have time? Maybe time for one more question? No time for one more question?
no,
All right.
no.
Thanks, guys.
Wonderful.
My email address is alex@readyforce.com. I talk to students all the time about launching businesses. If you've got ideas and you want feedback, send me an email. If you're curious about the fundraising process, send me an email. If you're out in California and want to see some startups, send me an email. Thanks.
Very good, thank you, Alex.
Okay, our presenter for tonight is Abdul. He's having his business concept and he would like your feedback to go through it.
Alright, like Saagar said, my name is Abdul. I'm an electrical engineering student. I'm a junior 2 currently. So just to give a little background about what my concept idea is. So pretty much gonna go through the background, the need, why I'm gonna do this, the approach, and how I'm gonna take the concept further, the benefits of the idea, and the competition of the business. So, and then conclude. So pretty much background, you guys probably already know this, but 11 years ago, the United States was a victim of a few terrorist attacks. And because of the terrorist attacks, there was an outburst of, attention to the Muslim community and the Middle East. And because of this, with the increased attention and lack of education, people started forming up all these ideas and they were misinformed, so Islamophobia developed. They started fearing, Muslims and people from the Middle East just because they were unknown, just because the people in the United States, they didn't know enough about the people to actually formulate a good opinion about them. So as a result of that, a lot of misconceptions, a lot of misinformation was being spread about the Muslims and about people in the Middle East. A lot of hate sites, a lot of bad things were occurring. Just off the top of my head, I remember that there was a mosque being built in Wisconsin, and somebody went and burnt that down. So that was a hate crime. And even more recently, they're thinking about making a mosque in New York by the Twin Towers, where the Twin Towers used to be. And people just, went crazy because they thought it was a sign of defeat for the United States, and that, people just felt that, Muslims are the enemy, and they just viewed the Muslims as the enemy, and they just felt like they had to defeat the religion and not the actual terrorists. So, going to the need, the community that doesn't have a reliable source for Islamic education. I mean, you can go to the internet, you can Google things, and you get a wide range. You get, even, Islamic sites by Muslims. You have some people that try to brainwash young people into believing that the United States is the enemy. And you have, hate sites against Muslims that try to brainwash other people to think that Muslims are the enemy. And there's a lot of hate going on. And more particularly, schools, they don't have the proper information to answer this question to the students. And that's where I actually got the idea from. I just recently moved to Rochester Hills, and my sister, she got enrolled in one of the middle schools, and the middle schools, they contacted me to come in and answer the questions for the students, because as the teacher was teaching students in his world studies class, he didn't have all the answers to the question that the students had. So they actually had me come in, and that resulted in me getting called back to 4 other classrooms, and it just went on from there. So the concept, I want to get everything more organized, and just going back to the need. And a lot of people, they have radical misconceptions about Islam, and just going to the classrooms and just actually having maybe a website and stuff to inform the people that can reverse the misinformation and actually present the truth, and let people know that, let the Muslims know that the United States isn't the enemy, and let the Americans know that the actual religion of Islam is not the enemy. So the approach, like I said, create a website to act as a central hub for the information. And I went to the classes and I gave presentations, so you even have those presentations available on the web. Have video recordings of the actual presentations, and I actually volunteer at other organizations where I had the events for children, for the educational events. And even those things get recorded. Have those events on the website. Have articles and all these type of things. And distribution of literature. So have like flyers printed out, have booklets that we can hand out at schools and things. So they actually have a little guide to go through when they talk to the students. So I mean, as engineers, probably familiar with the website khanacademy.com. It has a very structured way of this is physics, this is this is this, and that's kind of my hope for the website, to have a more structured type of approach to the education about just the religion and all the political issues. And just going further, just keep volunteering at the schools, and because that was my gateway to the idea, and I guess that remains as kind of my fundamental belief, because students, they don't care about who you are. They're really candid, and they just give you the question right away. So I think that's good, because that breeds a more learning environment, and the benefits that result from this are that the community and the schools in the community, they have a good resource to refer to when when they teach about Islam, and talk about the Middle East and all that. And even the mosques, they know that they can refer to some people, because the mosques, they're not really that involved with the people. So if you have a resource like this, and I talk to the mosque in the Rochester Hills area, they have monthly dinners, and to have an organization that comes in and talks to children about what they're going through and all that, and to give them the education that they want, that could be really beneficial. And this will provide the education resources to the people that actually want the education resources. And like I said, with the website, if it's really organized, they can get the information as they want and go from there. And essentially, this would increase the knowledge of the people in the community, and through that knowledge, they'll be educated, and with the education, you can read understanding and acceptance. So I mean, if you look at the competition, there's organizations like the Islamic Community of North America, the Islamic Society of North America, the Islamic Research Foundation, all these other companies that operate on a very macro level. They're really global, and they might have an event in big cities like New York, maybe in California, and things like this. But there isn't really anything on the micro level for actual communities where people go into the schools and ask, or just interact with the students. So that's one of the services that I'm thinking to provide to at least Rochester Hills at the moment. And going even further, the competition, they don't have organized resources available online, like I was talking about, where a person can just go online, go to the website, and just, if he wants to learn about a subject, just navigate to that page and just learn on his own. So in conclusion, my organization will organize and propagate the correct information about the religion, and clear misconceptions up for students and everybody that's willing to learn. And this will be benefiting the community and the society at large, because at the hub, it's just in Rochester Hills where I'm going to volunteer at the schools and things, but we also have the website where people can access anything from around the world. And like I said, with the literature, we're providing the schools with the resources that they need to educate the students, and at the same time promoting diversity and acceptance. So at this point, if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
There are many resources or websites which are providing information, right?
Right.
And you said like there are good information, there is bad information. So in this, like whatever your perspective is, how you are going to define that your information is the correct one?
I mean, correct is like when we're talking about religion, you talk about what does the actual text say and what the people believe in and all that. If you misconstrue ideas, I mean, obviously you can brainwash people pretty easily, but you just have to stick to the facts. And it's not like you want to be giving opinions, because if you go to the website, like I said, you have a lot of good information and bad information. With the bad information, you can see that people have prejudices and they talk, even when they're given the information, you can see it through the writing. So you have to give an unbiased view about the information and stuff. So.
But how when this is your actually competition, that how you are going to present your material so that it will be like authenticated, like this is the authentication, this is the right information, because there are many. I come from India and I have been with people who are Muslims as well as others, so I know this, that the religion is not a problem. The people who are at the top, like,
Mhm.
and how they brainwash people is the
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So
I mean, just I'll just really briefly, but like in Islam, well, we have two sources of information. You have the Quran, which is equivalent to the Bible. Then you have prophetic teachings of the Prophet Muhammad, which is the prophet that we believe in. So anything that you put on the website or just any information that you propagate, it has to be from those sources. And the Quran, it hasn't been changed for 1400 years. So anything that you quote from the Quran, you can just go back and recheck from the text. And same thing with the prophetic teachings. It's a very intricate science behind it. So you know that whatever you're quoting, you can refer back to the text and go do that. So anything that you put on the website or even educating people, you have to have the sources. You have to cite the sources that you received it from. And that's one of the things that people don't do when they brainwash people, right? They just take bits and pieces and they just put it out there. But if you actually put it in there, like let's say you take a verse from the Quran, you say, I got it from this chapter and this person can go back and check it, And same thing with the prophetic teachings, you just go back and just recheck with the sources. Yeah.
they also prove it. Like I have seen that
Mhm.
there are completely two different. I'm not getting into
No,
the
no,
debate
I-
of that,
yeah.
but what I'm trying to say is, if you're making this website, you
Mhm.
should get like if there are like big foundations
Mhm.
which people trust, if you can get affiliations from them
Mhm.
or something like that, certification from them, like your information is a standard information,
Mhm.
so that is going to help you in the market. That's where I was going with
Okay.
this.
Alright.
I agree with Saagar what he's saying.
Mhm.
See, the problem is, in any religious textbook, be it Quran, be it Bible, or be it Bhagavad Gita, what Hindus follow,
Mhm.
there are many instances where two idea oppose each other. Same thing happens in Quran. In first starting of Quran, they say something else, and end it says something else.
Mhm.
It's really in Quran that whatever is said at the latest one, should be followed. Initially, Quran is about peace, and later on, there are some wars in it.
Mhm.
And it's more about what written in Quran, how is it interpreted and taught to masses.
Mhm.
Imams and those people, there are various means. There is some sentence said in Quran, you can interpret in very many ways.
Mhm.
So the way you are going to interpret is, how do you say that the other people who interpret in violent or some other way will be more powerful or more strong, or how will you convince people more on that?
I mean, just going back to what you said, whatever's the latest is the main thing. But I mean, you have to look at the whole thing. I mean, with the Quran, there's also commentary on the Quran, standards for what you follow, and you just refer back to that. Because I mean, okay, so let's say if there's a verse that says go kill, infidels,
Jihad.
right?
Or jihad.
yeah, right. So I mean, you have to look at the concept because, I just going from chapter 2 just off the top of my head. There's a verse that says, when they come to you, you should kill them. That's talking about the non-Muslims, and the reason that that verse is there is because the non-Muslims were attacking the Muslims at that time. The Muslims weren't attacking back, and they were getting killed like that. So that verse was going back to like, yeah, if you have war, have it on the battleground. Don't go into people's homes and all that. And from there you get all these rules and regulations. So you just go back to that, right? You just say, you have to give the fact and you have to back it up, because if you take things out of context, yeah, you can misconstrue anything.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think kind of going off what the point he made,
Mhm.
there's tons of resources out there that will tell you about the Quran, and they'll all, like, whatever that person wants it to, whatever message they're trying to spread, if they want to say, here are all the things about why it's peaceful and loving, here are all the reason why it's, violent or it hates women or something like that. You can find websites for all of those.
Mhm.
But I think, like, it's more so people become more comfortable when they have, not by looking at the religious text and dissecting, by seeing real people. Like, I went to high school with an awful lot of Muslims.
Mhm.
And, I mean, I even realized, how much just hanging around people and hearing their opinions on things is like,
Mhm.
you kind of wouldn't expect that. And then you grow used to it and you're like, it's just the same as Christians.
Yeah,
if you
just like
dissected
people, right?
verses of the Bible, you could find
Yeah.
all these things that would say
Mhm.
it was a violent religion or something like that. And they're like, whoa, wait, that's Old Testament, we don't pay attention to it. Same thing with the Quran, So I'm like,
I
maybe
mean,
if you have like videos of
yeah.
Muslim students talking about their
Yeah.
experiences
I mean, that's a
and
good point.
how they relate to the religion, that's
Yeah.
what I think really helps.
I mean, and that's the reason that I
acceptance.
actually volunteer at the schools too, because the students they'll ask questions and just hearing the opinion of another Muslim. Because I was in the 4th grade when 9/11 actually occurred, and you know they accuse me of being a terrorist in 4th grade. So a lot of people they just act ignorant. So I mean, you just have to have these type of back and forth and these conversations to actually do it. And that's the reason that I'm saying, like, yeah, you have to volunteer in the community and all that. So
Okay.
So maybe you said it and I missed it. But do you have a particular target? Like, are you targeting people like that are in this room, younger people, or is it more broad? And I guess I would say I'd love to see you figure out something to target
yeah.
and not get lost in the masses of other. The second thing, and this isn't to be answered maybe now, but is your mission and your vision and your heart to be a resource or to be an advocate? Will you be passive or will you be proactive? Right? Will you reach out and go to try to proactively try to educate and change thinking, or will you just stay as a sort of stately, an institution that is well respected but that is not proactive?
Right. I mean, of course, I want to try to be proactive back to volunteering, because I mean, I want to volunteer as many places that I can and just get the message out. And going back to what you said, the target, and target's gonna be, you know, around the middle school age, because that's my sister's in middle school, and what I'm thinking is try to educate my sister about the basics. You can also have, you know, resources that we tailor to her on the website. So when the middle schoolers in her class or whatever, they go to the website, they have these types of resources that they easily understand. And you know, just right now, my contacts are, you know, middle school teachers, just the social studies teachers. So I mean, even right now we're going back and forth. And I'm talking about this idea with them and just going back and forth of what they want to see and what they don't want to see. So I'm more in tune with what the middle school wants at the moment. So and I get more feedback from that. So I'm just going up and just thinking about, yeah, do I want to, you know, target other people? At the moment, don't really think so, because I don't know how I'm going to get the feedback.
I think it's incredibly important to focus.
Yeah.
Can I answer something? Yes. So I see an opportunity, a huge opportunity for you. Now, are you aware that HBO did a whole series on a family, Islamic families in Dearborn? Were you aware of that?
I didn't know that.
They did a whole series on it, and it was sort of like showing Muslim families in a very common setting, you know, kind of take.
I remember TLC did one similar, the All-American Muslim or something.
I think maybe it was TLC,
Okay.
so something like that. So my idea for you is, and you know, maybe it's not a good idea, but my idea is that you listed a bunch of other organizations, Islamic organizations, which are not-for-profit organizations, correct? Now, it would occur to me that they would welcome someone who could get the voice of the younger generation and maybe sponsor you in a way that you could go out and maybe interview or create content that is not so much directly related to the Quran, because that's sort of heavy scholarly stuff, right? I mean, do you really want to get into that?
Right.
I mean, that's a lot of you have to have a PhD to have credibility in that, right? I mean, really, right? So they're not going to listen to a young guy. What do you know about it, right? I'm sure you know a lot about it, but it's not going to resonate with most people. So, but if you went out and you had a video and you captured, let's say, the voice of students in middle school who are living in the community and who they are and what they are, profiles, I bet as a filmmaker, like the next Michael Moore, or I don't know, who's a good example. Maybe he's not a good example, I'm not sure. But the next thing, because I think it would serve your purpose, which is to let people know how welcoming the religion is, without getting into maybe all of the, and I think that's what you were saying, Hillary, without getting into all of the minutia of, this line says this or that and so on. So anyway, that was my idea.
I have an idea here. In order to make it more credible and also more like reaching people who already have a religion or like that are very biased on theirs, like I think it would be really a beautiful thing if you like in order to bring like a different type of feel to it, if you had like also other people your age, or like either pick like experts or like other people your age, like one of the two, so it doesn't get all confusing, but that are from other religions, and so you can all have one common goal of spreading the word and miscommunication about each of those religions. So it doesn't seem so biased from one side, and it comes together with a central focus of removing, all this misinformation, so we can all connect together,
Right.
because that will really have a lot more unity than just, you showing your cause, and it makes people, when they start to see the all-American Muslim, that's one thing, but if they can really relate that, all these other religions have that same problem, and that we're all trying to go for a common focus, I think that would be more powerful.
I was thinking it's kind of like what she was saying too, but if you were to bring all races and all religions, eventually after you got bigger for a while, because I remember being back in middle school or high school that we were learning about the Civil War and stuff, and they were always talking about white and black people, and then I was sitting there because I'm Mexican, and I was like, well, what happened to the Mexicans in the whole time? They never told me about that, and I asked and they would never know, so I was just that kind of thing.
World religion, world culture.
Right.
I think what would be interesting is, I think one of the biggest problems with just the topic in religion in general is people tend to concentrate, on a lot of the negative things, and I think it'd be interesting to sort of, think about that if you ever do pursue a video idea, try to capture the moments that really have made an impact on people's lives, rather than, just describing the Quran itself. See how Islam has impacted communities, see what the groups are doing, see how the benefit they're bringing to the community, to each person, and try to overcome the bad with more good things that come out of this religion so that it can be accepted by everyone.
I guess going off of that, to me it seems it's very boring to just read about stories, news articles basically. And I appreciate interactivity, that's how I learn best. So having some kind of interface where maybe people have a really good story, or someone's built a house for the homeless or something. I think it'd be really cool to pull in stories like that and essentially break any stigmas that might exist, and showing that people of different ethnicities, different religious backgrounds can do good things to the community. If that's the stigma that you're trying to break.
Abdul, I just have a quick question about the business model. How do you plan to sustain this business? Revenue model, do you plan to make it as a NGO? Obviously, it's a social venture. So, how do you plan to have some income so that you can sustain this foundation? In donations and
Yeah, I was talking to Mark last week, and me and you were talking, and the best approach would be to make it an MPO. And he was talking to me about all the fundraising and all the things that go into it. So yeah, pretty much just the donations, and that's to sustain the organization.
Well, on the idea of profiting, and also I think it would help if, in order to spread your message, you kind of made something trendy. They have those coexist bumper stickers and stuff, and something about Muslim acceptance that could kind of catch on with people. Where after people are educated, they're like, I kind of want to have that little keychain, and people ask me about it, be like, because a guy came and spoke to us, and I realized all this Muslim hate is really stupid, and then they'll educate others.
Yeah, good idea. It's had like branding. Thank you. What were you gonna say?
Yeah, is there a demand in different schools?
There's a what?
Is there a demand? Yes, do they different schools would like
Yeah.
to visit there?
Yeah, cause like I said, this is the middle schools in the Rochester area.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I know that they have the demand just cause I'm living there. I'm sure other schools do as well, but I don't know cause I haven't had contact with those other schools in the different areas, but yeah, Rochester Hills, I know that they had the demand.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you so much, Abdul.
Thanks.
Okay, we are wrapping up this meeting, and we would like, there are 3 new members here. If you would just give your introduction.
Kyle Wachowski. I'm in Professor DeMonte's class for Business New Ventures.
I'm Logan Thompson. I'm also in the same class as him. I'm Ben Stout, and I'm in the same boat.
You guys are
So,
Good, man. You're
great thing about next week is we are having a gaming night on Wednesday. I know this is your midterm week, that's why we are not stressing you up with like anything, but come down there, we'll have food, just relax and enjoy the games. We'll have, there is a, if you want to pitch for the, if you want to go for the grand presentation, which is going to be 7th week for the funding, you need to register till this Monday. Like at least let me know, and till Monday let me know who is going to present, and you can prepare a draft. I can send you the format, that how much, what are the line items and how much are you going to ask. I'll send you the guidelines also. So just let me know whoever wants to go for funding till Monday, and till Friday it's due, and it will be in the 7th week. Then next week meeting we will have presentation from my company. It's a follow-up presentation that what we did around the year and what is our status and where we are going from here. So also the innovation quest, we will have it on Wednesday. Same activities, not different activity, but the same way. $100 is the price, so remember that. Thank you all for coming, and we have t-shirts for you. So that's why I asked t-shirt sizes, and there are different colors, so we thought it will be better, like if you can just go there and grab your color with the size. So just take your t-shirts before leaving.
We have green, orange, pink, and blue.
They're so beautiful.
Okay.
So I'd love to take a picture. If a couple people want to just grab a t-shirt and put it on, maybe we can take a picture of everyone together. We'll post it on our website and just
Great.
like support the team.
Sure.
Awesome.